Joseph,
What's up, man?
you know how we want to get started, right?
Oh, let's do it.
Let's do it. What's up, man?
Uh,
A lot
a
has
lot.
happened.
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot's kind
Yeah,
of up.
yeah. A lot has happened, man. So,
Uh,
shall we start with the almost comeback?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So first things first, were you surprised that the Celtics were even able to force a game 7?
Yes. Very much surprised. When you're down 3-0, I mean, and it's not just, just me speaking. I mean, we have, the stats to back us up. It's just hard to come back. And
Yeah,
so,
they're only the
uh,
fourth NBA team to ever actually force a game 7.
yeah,
First
yeah, yeah.
since '03.
Yeah,
So
it's just a tough thing to do. And, but I mean, credit to Boston for trying. So, I mean, but my question would be, did rallying back from down 3-0, did that wear them down from winning game 7? Because they looked exhausted. Tatum was just limping all over the place. I mean, it would have been a great start, obviously. I mean, sports history, I mean, besides baseball, being down 3-0 and coming back and winning the whole thing, uh it would have been a great story. It would have been like, I mean, we'll be talking about this for years and years and years. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, so we're not going to talk about it. What we will talk about is the, sort of what ifs. And you know it, do we take this as a result of, again, coming back down 3-0 and trying to win 4 games in a row? Does that take a lot out of a team? And was that the result that we saw, in game 7?
So I mean, hindsight's 2020. I think yes, it did. But going into game 7, I wouldn't have thought that. So going into game 7, I know we didn't have a show about it, but I was talking to people about it. I thought
Mm,
Boston was going to win. There was
mm,
not a doubt in my mind that Boston was going to lose that game.
mm.
I thought they had all the momentum. The way that game 6 ended. So did you
Oh my,
saw it, right? So let me tell you something
dude.
about that. So I watched pretty much that entire game. I was out to dinner with somebody, and we watched almost the entire game, and then we had to leave, and there was like 1 minute left. I'm like, well, it looks like the Heat are going to finish this off. I'm like, our ride's here. So we left. I'm like, you know what? Pull the game up on your phone, though, if you can. So he pulls it up on his phone. So I'm in the back seat, like looking over onto his phone to see it. And when it happened, I was like, dang, the Heat won. And then he looks at it, he's like, I think that went in. He's like, I'm like, I know it went in. He's like, but no, he's like, I think it beat the buzzer. I think he got it. And they put in slow replay again. I was like, oh my God, he got it. He scored.
Yeah.
That was after that happened. I was like, how does Boston lose game 7? And not just lose game 7, but just get manhandled.
Yeah. So I was about to say, so for you, game 7 was more about how bad Boston played and not how good the Heat played.
Yeah, I think so. So, it's interesting you mentioned Tatum. A lot of people talked about him being injured very early on in the game. Even he made a comment about it, about how it did throw him off. I mean, I get it. You roll your ankle. He almost pretty much lost his entire ability to play defense in a way. I don't think it should have swung the game that much, but I mean, it clearly did. And maybe just when that injury happened, mentally, Boston just was like, oh no. and they felt that like that was a bad omen,
Mm-hmm.
and they just kind of shut down. I mean, again, kudos to the Heat.
Mm-hmm.
You have to play well to win, so it's not like they played bad by any means.
Right.
But I think the blowout was more of a result of Boston just, like you said, they gave everything they had for 3 straight games, and you just can't hold on any longer at some point. So
yeah, and honestly, I would just look at the opposite of that. I think Spoelstra got his guys ready to play. I mean, if you what you say you watched the game, man, that Khalid Martin kid, he was on fire. Butler was just, Butler. Vincent, the guard that got hurt, who twisted his ankle, I think in game 3 or game 4, came back and played like a stud. Duncan Robinson got, played good off the bench.
He finished game 6. Duncan Robertson finished on a heater. I thought he was gonna be the reason the Heat won a game 6. He was just the last like 5 minutes, he was feasting. So
yeah, and they came together as a team. I mean, after the first quarter, it was like 20, it was 20 something to like 7, 6, 15, 16, something like that. Every quarter, if I'm not mistaken, every quarter but the third quarter, Miami was leading as far as points in each quarter. So the third quarter, Boston outscored them. Coming out of halftime, Boston looked good coming out of halftime. They just couldn't keep that momentum. Then when the fourth quarter came, Miami just took over.
Yeah.
But again, Miami just looked like bullies on a court. Like we mentioned about Tatum being hurt, Jaylen Brown had some forced turnovers that just looked a little crazy. I mean, again, Boston started off strong in the third. At the end of the third, Miami was right there. And I think once that fourth quarter started, that was it. Like Miami just put the gaslight under them and just lit them on fire. So again, I was more impressed. The way that Boston lost, yeah, I mean, they did what they could for 3 games to come back. But that fourth game, the way that Miami was locked in, kudos to Coach Spoelstra, and Butler and the entire team, man. Miami, and I know, but if I'm not mistaken, the previous podcast, I said that it doesn't matter who come out of the East. I don't see anybody going against Denver and trying something and trying to win. But the way Miami looked in game 7, I give Miami a chance to actually do that, to actually stun. I mean, they are huge underdogs on the Caesar Sportsbook and FanDuel. They are huge underdogs. I mean, first game I think they given Denver like 9 or 10 points or something like that. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's a close game in game 1, or even if Miami takes game 1. Like, I would not be surprised from the way that they played in game 7, and we'll transition into the playoff. The NBA Finals preview. But I would not be surprised with the momentum that Miami has right now that they can match up with Denver.
So I will say, in terms of match up, I definitely don't think it's going to be a sweep at this point. I don't think Miami's going to get swept. I'll agree with that. Again, here's the thing with Boston. Yeah, Boston's an amazing team, but we did just see them go 7 with the Sixers. They just went 7 with the Heat. The Heat were up 3-0 in that series. Denver, it's not like that. Denver went 5, 5, and 4. They're rested. Ultimately, I think Boston's downfall kind of this entire postseason, because they even went 6 with the Hawks. is any given night they could have looked like the best team in the NBA, but then they also could have just looked like an average team.
Mm-hmm.
They just weren't consistent. Denver has been the definition of consistent this postseason.
Yeah, for sure.
And ultimately, again, we'll make our picks in a little. I'll get into our picks a little bit, but ultimately, I think that will be Miami's downfall. So again, don't think it'll be a sweep. Don't think it'll go 7 either, though. I think Denver, like they did with LA, I think they'll come out tomorrow night and make a huge statement win.
Mm-hmm.
Just to be like, hey, I know everyone, because they hear it. They know everyone's talking about the Heat now. So they're going to come out and they're going to be like, hey, they're an 8 seed. They had to do the play-in tournament. We've been here the whole year. Like, don't forget about us.
Yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to touch on real fast, you mentioned Jaylen Brown.
Right.
So Jaylen Brown, I'm looking it up now. Yes. So Jaylen Brown is under contract
until
through next year.
Right? Oh, through next year. Okay.
Through next year. But he is a UFA, unrestricted free agent, after next season.
Mm-hmm.
So there's been a lot of talk of, does Boston try to get rid of him?
Right.
So I guess my question to you is, do you hold on to him for this season and try to run it back? Or do you try to trade him for, maybe you get a stud person, maybe you get more of, not like a suit. Like, you're not going to get a superstar for him, but, maybe you get a couple prospects. Do you just hold on to him for the whole year, see if you make a deep run next year, and then go from there and let him test the market?
Yeah. The kid's a stud. It's a good 1-2 between him and Tatum. If you look at, the 1-2 punches in the league, LeBron, AD, Steph,
Clay,
Jokic, Murray.
Yep.
Those 1-2s is what it seems like it's what you need in order to get somewhere as far as, the playoffs and possibly making the finals. So the catch is, though, if I'm not mistaken, once that, if they want to re-sign him, I mean, it's a max deal, right? So if you have him and Tatum, then that's all. Like, you can't afford to have anybody else. Yeah. And so, but if you do, or they can work out some kind of deal, obviously he wants to be a high play, for his performance. Now, he didn't play well. That game 7, he don't deserve a huge contract. But if you put his season together and, and how he plays, then yes, he is one of the top guards in the league. So the question is, if I'm him, do I want to work out something to stay in Boston and work everything, and get more studs to Boston? Or do I want to make that money but go somewhere else and do it? I did see something really interesting. And I saw an article on this about possibly going to the Knicks.
Okay.
Now, the Knicks have the money because it's a big market team. They can do some trading and get him there, right? But between Brunson and Jaylen, that 1-2 in New York, that'd be a force to be reckoned with. I think it would be smart for the Knicks to go and do that. I think it would be smart for Brown to take a look at that possibly, because you know what? I think he's more of a 1-2 equal with Jaylen. I mean, with Brunson than he is with. Sorry, I'm trying to remember everybody with Tatum.
It's a lot of players.
Yeah. So I think he's a better, as far as eyes on him. Like, as far as, hey, you want to be the stud, you want to be the C. I think in New York, the eyes will be on him. In Boston, the eyes are on Tatum. But I think he gets a lot more out of as far as who this kid is and what he can do. And I think the story would be even bigger about him if he did go to somewhere like New York. Dallas, I could see him being a 1-2 to Luka. Now, the thing is that with the Dallas situation, do you bring back Kyrie and try to work
Yeah.
this 1-2 out with him, right? Which, who knows? But this is all like I said, I read that was speculation. Like these are all just, talks and stuff like that. Is he comfortable in Boston? I think so. Could they run it back? I think so. If they do keep Jalen and Tatum for the next some odd years together, like again, Steph and Clay, I think Boston, whoever they put around them, they can absolutely, work with. And them two alone can make the Celtics successful over the next couple of years. I think their new head coach is a stud.
I
I
like
think
Joe. I like Joe a lot.
Yeah, I think they have. I think the Celtics that if they lose Brown, I think they do lose something, and then they will re-sign somebody because what they didn't have to pay, Brown. But I think they if Brown is traded this year, I think it'd be almost like a 5-6 seed season next year for the Celtics, because they have to rebuild that chemistry again. Al Horford is not getting younger. Marcus Smart, he can only do so much over that time. They have a couple of good role players, but take away Brown, you're taking away a lot. Again, I am the idea of him being on the Knicks. I think it's a great idea. I think the Knicks should definitely take a look at that and see if that's even a possibility. I think in Dallas, will be definitely a good a place for him to be. You know what else would be a good place for him to be? Portland. Where? I think him and Damian Lillard, that's a good 1-2 right there. That actually gives Damian a chance at, winning something next year.
So you're assuming that Portland's going to keep Damian though.
Oh yeah.
They also have the number 3 pick in the draft.
Yeah, I don't unless he wants to go. And they, what's funny is that on social, I think it was either Twitter or Instagram, one of them, he put Lillard put, "Oh, I hear something about a trade like this, like he said, "Oh, start like a poll in Portland if you want me to be traded and see what, and see if I get traded," or something. Like he put it like that. But it was him basically saying, "I don't want to go anywhere, but if the fans want me to leave, then just say it and I'll go," sort of thing. But I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's going to retire a Trailblazer unless it gets to that point where, like the MJ thing where he gets, all right, I'm old and I'm over my prime, so I'm just going to go somewhere and play for a few more years. But I don't see. And I think it would be only right for Portland to do something for him, as far as get him another player to help him get close to it. Because I think at anybody, I think Butler and Lillard deserves championship rings.
So I agree with you on the last part. So I found it. So May 18th, he said, so it was in response to somebody posted, muting all of you that are undervaluing the Blazers' number 3 pick and insisting on trading Dame. What's wrong with you all? You think we suffered this long to go out like that? Goodbye.
Yeah.
And in response to that, he said, if the fans want to trade me, start the petition and send it in.
Yeah, there you go.
And then somebody posted in the comments, they actually put a shot of him in a Lakers uniform with LeBron and AD.
Anything in LA is a possibility.
Yeah. So a couple things. I think Brown, the Jalen stuff. So I agree with you in the sense of I think the Celtics keep him. I actually think they're going to keep him through this year.
Okay.
However, if they do not win a championship, I don't think they re-sign Jalen. I think they let him walk.
So quick question. So if they let's say not even win a championship, what if he has an okay average season? Do they trade him in a?
You think they trade him in the mid-season?
Oh no, I'm asking you. If he has an okay season, instead of keeping him all the way, because you can get more value out of him if he has an okay season in the middle of the season, and just trade him off, so you won't have to spend that money at the end of the season.
No, I don't think they trade him even mid-season.
Okay.
And I don't think, again, and I'm going to tie this into the Lillard stuff. I don't think it's anybody's fault. Like, I think if they don't win a championship next year, I think it's ran its natural course with Brown in Boston. So they took Jalen number 4 overall in the 2016 draft.
Mm-hmm.
And they took Tatum number 3 the very next year in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like this is a new, they've been playing with each other. What is that? Going on 7 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They've made multiple Eastern Conference finals. They've made the finals. And they just, at some point, I think Tatum's not going anywhere. Tatum is the face of your franchise now.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. They're paying him the max deal.
Yeah. And I think it's just one of those things where it's like, kind of like with Doc at the end of this season with the Sixers, it's like, maybe this is ran its course. We've done a coaching change. Maybe it's time to try something else, because if it's kind of like the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Maybe that partnership just doesn't work. Kind of like with the Nets and, and that happens all the time in sports where you think like, oh, these guys are going to team up and they're going to crush it. And they just don't. I mean, sometimes things don't work out the way you want it to. So I think if they do anything less than win the finals, I think they let Brown walk as a UFA. Like, I think they'll try to sign him, but they're not going to give it. They're not going to go all out to sign him. Mm-hmm. And with Lillard, I think same thing. I think it's for both Lillard and Portland's best interest to move on. I think he's done a ton for that team. I think he is one of the best players in the league. Is he under contract still? Yeah, he is. I think he's under contract for a while too. Let me see.
Okay. So somebody will have to pick up that contract then.
Yeah.
And again, if it's a huge contract, I'm not sure what it is. If it's a huge contract, then a huge market has to pick up that contract. I mean, we talking about, if you look at the free agents now, I mean, the Lakers could be a possibility. Yeah. I mean, D'Angelo Russell is done with his. I mean, he's a free agent. Yeah. If you want somebody cheap, you can get him, I guess.
So Lillard doesn't become an unrestricted free agent until 2027.
Oh, so that's
if he has a player option. So that's if he decides to exercise his player option. And I wonder, he may have a no trade clause too. That I don't see anything about.
I mean, I
guess I just don't. Like, even from Damian's perspective, why stay in Portland? Like, they're obviously in full-on rebuild. They've got the number 3 pick. I don't know. Just move on. I really don't. I don't understand. I wish I understood what his mindset was to stay in Portland.
So if he does, and I mean, I know we were supposed to be talking about.
Sorry, we got time.
Finals, yeah, but talking about this is really a really interesting topic. But so let's play devil's advocate. So where, if he leaves Portland, where would a good fit be for him? I mean, I do think the Lakers would be a good fit for him.
He's a natural guard and
I think Dallas would be a good fit for him.
So I was gonna say Dallas. I was gonna say.
Where else would be a
Sorry, no, go ahead. What were you gonna say? And then I'm gonna.
Last thing. But where else would be a good place for him? Where? Miami.
Yeah,
I think Miami.
Yeah, I think Miami's good for anybody. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
So the Dallas thing just made me think of something. I mean, this is extremely out there. I think the odds of this happening are crazy low. But what if they did a sign and trade? So Dallas re-signs Irving to just trade him to swap with Portland. Like, they send Irving to Portland, Dame comes to Dallas.
But you got to remember who you're dealing with. I don't see true. Kyrie. Yeah. That's true. He ain't going for that. Kyrie and again, these are just all reports that you read and stuff like that. Yeah. Kyrie, I mean, I think his top choice is to be with LeBron and finish out and try to win.
Yeah.
I think he's just because I know there was an interview I think it was last year or the beginning of this year that he had, and he was just like, yo, I regret not giving like playing
Yeah.
more with LeBron. Like I wanted to be the superstar, and I don't know why I thought like he has regrets, and I think he wants to amend that and join with LeBron again and get because I don't know if you saw like obviously we watched the final. I mean the West finals. But Kyrie was at most of those games, and every time that he
Okay.
saw LeBron, they had they still do the same exact handshake they did. Like they don't forget it. So they still have that communication. I think they're still boys. And let's be real, like in their prime, like that, what was it, 2014,
So
15,
LeBron went back to Cleveland at the end of the 2014 season. So it would have been
14?
2014, 2015 season
Yeah, yeah.
was his.
So them
Yeah.
together, they looked good.
Yeah.
And
They
so
won the
but we
finals.
talking,
So
but we talking 10 years ago. So can
that's true.
they still rekindle that? Who knows? I just think I think yes, LeBron is getting old. I think AD is getting towards the end of his prime. But if they
He's
had
really injury plagued now too.
yeah, he
That's
is.
my big concern with AD.
But if they had a facilitator like a Russell, a Kyrie, I mean
Yeah.
a Russell, a Lillard or a Kyrie, they have to be the favorites. I don't care who it until LeBron shows me he can't run up down that court anymore. LeBron is in, like he's in. The Lakers are in. And so yeah, it'd be an interesting offseason because you know what? When you do look at the free agents that's out there right now, it's not much going on.
Mm-hmm.
But those who are end of their contracts, trades can be a really popular thing this offseason going into next season. We could see a lot of new faces on a lot of new teams. And so yeah, we'll see. So yeah, I mean, but you know, going back to the finals, um, the one thing that I am concerned about, like again, I haven't decided, like until we decide to make our picks, I haven't decided in my mind who I'm taking. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know who I'm taking. I'm
Okay.
just talking to try to figure it out. Um, But the one thing that concerns me about Denver is that they've been off a good while now. And so does Russ kick in? It was the practices that they've had was enough because the Heat, I mean, they just went 7 games. Again, they have that momentum. They have that it's like second nature to them now. Like they're going. It starts tomorrow. They just finished a day or two ago.
Yeah, Monday was the game. Yeah.
On Monday. So they finished 2 days ago. Now they're about to get right back in it tomorrow. So it's going to be smooth selling when they get in there. I mean, I don't know. The one thing I don't know is that when you always talk about Denver with sports, they always talk about the altitude and how. I don't know if
They
that's a
do.
factor. So I don't know if that because they just had this game 7, will that make them even more tired playing in game 1? I don't know, but all that time off that Denver had, is that too much time? Like, will that? I guess my ultimate question is that a factor being off for that long?
So I actually don't think it is.
Okay.
I really don't. I don't think you have to do much to motivate Jokic and Murray.
Oh yeah, true.
Again, I know I keep saying this. I sound like a broken record, but this postseason, really the whole season. Although I definitely have watched most of Denver this postseason because you just, like you said, you don't get a lot of their games here. I just think I think they want it way too much this year. Don't think they're worrying about the days off. I really, I don't think it's going to make a factor. If anything, I think it actually hinders the Heat. In the sense of they had to go all out for Game 7. I think they used a lot of their energy, and I think Denver will take advantage of that tomorrow night. And I mean, I expect a blowout tomorrow night, if I'm being totally honest, because I think Denver knows they need to blow them out just to kind of make that, like you said, make that statement of doesn't matter that we were off, I think, over an entire week. Like, we're here. We've taken down everybody. Everybody said the Suns were going to be a challenge to us. Everybody said LeBron was going to be a challenge to us. We took the Suns down in 5, swept LeBron. Like, this is nothing to us. This is our year. So I don't think it. In some cases, I think other teams maybe, but not this Denver team. This is a different team right now.
Yeah, and they are 34-7 at home.
Yeah.
And
they haven't lost at home since March, I think. It's nuts.
Yeah. And it was funny is that, so if you look at the season leaders for the Heat, in points it was Butler, and rebounds it was Adebayo, and assists it was Butler. If you look at Denver, in points it was Jokic, in rebounds it was Jokic, in assists it was Jokic. This dude is on another level. How can you go against the former MVP? I don't see how you pick against him. I guess again, if I'm looking at the Heat, they play. It's just the only reason it's hard for me to sit here and, because again, before our previous podcast, if I'm not, it was either that podcast or the podcast before that, but I was saying, like, I just don't see the way that Denver looked against the Lakers. I'm like, there's no way anybody from the East is messing with them. But what I saw from the Heat in Game 7, with that, I mean, they just looked like a team on a mission. Again, I keep talking about Coach Spoelstra, and he deserves to be on that top tier, coach list.
Yeah.
He gets his play. I think that's why I think it's closer than everybody think. I think Spo will get them ready to play in these finals. He's been here before. They have all the experience on their side, as far as Coach Riley being their I think he's the president or whatever he is.
I think he's still the president of basketball operations.
Pat
Riley.
Yeah, Pat.
That guy looks like he got ripped from a Italian mob movie. It's so, I can't look at that guy and think basketball coach. I think he's like about to come and tell me that the duffel bag I gave him felt a little light, and he's gonna go talk to me by the boat docks.
So I mean, they have all the experience in the world in the front office. I just find it hard to just make a decision and go, oh yeah, the Nuggets in 5 or whatever. Like it is. Like, again, as we're talking, I'm scrambling through my mind and trying to figure out exactly who I want to pick and what I want to do.
Yeah. So I don't disagree with you on any of that. I really, like, genuinely, you're spot on with Spoelstra, you're spot on with the Heat. And that's why I probably would have had a sweep. I don't think I'll have a sweep anymore. Here's
so you're
one
going
thing
with the
I'll
Nuggets.
say.
That's what
I'm for sure picking the Nuggets.
Okay.
Before I tell you the games, here's one other comparison. You may like this comparison, you might not. I think it'll be interesting. Yes, the Heat have looked good, and when their backs have been against the wall, they've responded. And they're beating top tier teams like the Bucks and the Celtics. But again, on the other side, you have Denver, who's been very consistent. So I actually think of the March Madness tournament this year. Because on one side, for the championship game, you had UConn, who just dominated every team that got in their way. I think they averaged beating each team by 10 or more points. They just won, and they won, and they won. And then you had San Diego State, who they beat some big name teams. They beat a number 1 seed. I believe they were the ones that beat Alabama, who was the number 1 overall seed. It took a buzzer beater to beat Florida Atlantic.
Mm-hmm.
So going to the championship game, there was this thought of like, I mean, yeah, you got UConn who's dominated, but San Diego State, like, it felt like there was something special about them.
Right.
And then what happened? UConn came out and just ran over San Diego State.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, the better team typically wins out. And I think that's what we're going to kind of see with these finals is, yeah, the Heat will win some, but Denver, they just have, I talked about in the last podcast that there's something special about this Denver team. I truly think there is. And I don't see how you pick against them.
I respect that analogy, but I will point out that that's just one game. We have 7 of them. Well, possibly.
That's fair. That's fair. And again, that's why I don't think it's going to be a sweep.
Mm-hmm.
But Denver, I'll go Denver in 6. I don't see it going 7 either.
Yeah.
I just, the games the Heat win, I think are going to be very close games. And the games I think Denver wins are more or less going to be blowouts.
Yeah, so my head is saying Denver.
What's your heart saying?
My heart, which I'm a roll with, and my heart may about to be broken, but I'm gonna say it. I'm rolling with the Heat in 6.
In 6, not even 7.
In 6, I think they take 6 at home and win the championship.
Okay,
for a Cinderella
that's what I was gonna
story.
say. The 6th game would have to be in Miami, so maybe that's the swinging factor.
I think they're gonna steal one game in Denver.
Yeah. Okay.
And then 2 home, and then 1 back. I think
because that's the thing I was gonna say is for them to win in 6, they have to go into that game up 3-2.
Yeah, and I think they will. I think they'll be ready to. I think they have a game plan. Okay. That's what I'm gonna roll with. All right, I'm rooting for the underdog here. Again, my head could be right, and I agree with you. The Denver in 6 sounds really good, but again, from what I saw from them in Game 7, it's hard to pick against them. And also, what my heart wants, I want to see Jimmy win. I do.
Okay.
I want to see Jimmy Butler win. Yeah.
Fair enough.
So that's what I'm.
So we still got a good amount of time here. Did you want to jump into the Stanley Cup Finals, or there was? Do you want to touch on there's been a couple coaching hires in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to chat? I guess right away. The Adrian Griffin one, I don't know much about him being hired by the Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the bigger one, to me at least, because I knew who it was, Nick Nurse being hired by the Celtics.
Mm-hmm. By the Celtics?
By the Sixers.
I was like,
by the Sixers. Thank you. No, it was not by the Celtics.
I was like, wait, you know
too much Celtics talk. Yeah, Nick Nurse hired by the Sixers, Philadelphia 76ers.
Mm.
I didn't see that one coming. I figured Nick Nurse would get hired. I don't know. From everything I read, it seemed like the ultimate pull was, one, he's a defensive-minded coach.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize, but his Toronto team this year was like almost number 1 in defensive. They were like number 1 in steals. They were number 1 in getting the most steals, but also giving up the fewest turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was a big pull. And then apparently he wanted to work with Embiid. So that was his big reason for coming in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so. I think the Sixers got a stud of a coach from what he did in with Toronto. It's not a bad it's not a bad hire at all. Yeah. From the teams that needed coaches, he probably was the best available coach that any team could get. And Adrian Griffin, he hasn't done anything, coach wise, But I think from what I saw and read, that Giannis, was happy with this. Like that, this is something that Giannis wanted. Which I mean, you want to keep your star player happy. If they were to hire
Mhm.
somebody that he didn't want, then it'd be a bigger issue. But Giannis seemed happy with that. You make Giannis happy, he's gonna play his butt off. So I think again, another smart hire. There was another hire too.
Okay,
If
I
I'm not
missed that other hire
mistaken.
then.
Let's see.
Oh, while you're looking up, the one last thing I'll say about Nick Nurse too, the
Mhm,
other thing that it said to me was the Sixers still think that their championship window's open and like they're going for a championship. They're not. So I thought maybe they would entertain the idea of like a rebuild. I don't think that's happening. I think they're going to try and re-sign Harden
mhm.
and give it another go. So
And you know what else I didn't realize that Adrian Griffin also came from the Raptors.
he did, yeah. He was
Yeah,
the
yeah,
yeah,
I
I think he
didn't
was like the
realize
head
that.
assistant coach under Nurse. He started off his coaching career with the Bucks. So there was familiarity there also.
And so I'm lying. What I saw was it wasn't a hire; it was a step down. And I think he was the
Bob
president of
Myers
operations. Yes,
from Bob Myers, yeah.
from Golden State. Yes, that's what I saw.
Yeah, that one I don't know what it means,
Yeah, I don't,
to be honest. I in terms of like I don't know, does that mean we're gonna see big changes with the Warriors? Does that mean they're not gonna
right.
re-sign Draymond this summer?
Hmm.
Is Kerr on the go maybe? Because I know there
Yeah,
was talk
no,
about
I
maybe
don't
bringing
think
Kerr to the
so.
Suns, but
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, right now you have the Pistons, the Suns, the
I forgot the
Raptors.
Pistons still need a coach.
Yeah, that are looking for coaching,
Mhm.
looking for a coach. Um, I know there's been talk about interesting thing I did see with the Raptors. I want to say was they were looking at like a Becky Hammond, like they was trying to make that next step. Having a woman
I
as
don't think anybody wants to touch Becky Hammond right now,
yeah,
though,
I was
because
just
of
about to say
well
that.
everything going
Yep.
on with the Aces.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That's a
That's what I
whole
was talking
other
about. When I saw that,
yeah.
I was just like, well, that's out of the loop.
I'm kind of
Um,
surprised the Aces still
have her,
have
right?
her, but I mean they've
Yeah.
backed her. Or they're like, no, this didn't happen, and
Yeah, because I think they're part
so
of it too, and so they're
yeah,
like, if you throw me under the bus, I'm throwing y'all
yeah,
under the bus.
that's true.
One interesting thing I did see is that I forgot what team it is. It could have been a Raptors also, but JJ Redick interviewing for a head
Yeah,
coaching
I
position, which I
saw
think,
that. I
I mean,
don't
former
like that.
player.
Yeah,
I
but it's
mean,
like he doesn't have any coaching. It's like this. It was like when
well,
Steve Nash was hired with the Nets. I was like, what is this?
yeah. I mean, but
So
I don't know.
I'm
Well,
not a big
I just
fan
thought,
of you don't do any assistant jobs. You don't do anything like that. You just get hired as a head
yeah,
coach. I'm not a
yeah.
huge fan of that.
Yeah, which I think Nash is up for one of the interviews too, if I'm not mistaken.
Interesting.
Yeah, I forgot again. I forgot which one. The one interesting one I will say is the Pistons one. Like, who wants to help with that build? Um,
See, and that's interesting you say that because that's to me, I would look at that, especially if I'm a young and upcoming coach. I think that's one of the more um like bigger opportunity jobs because you
but
have this
wouldn't that
young
be
team you
the
can still build.
yeah? But wouldn't that be a job where yes, I get what you're saying. That can be that's like you got these young players and you can be an up and coming coach, but like if
You want like an yeah,
you don't do well, then that can backfire sort of thing.
that's true. And they might also want because the team is so young, they might want like a veteran coach to kind of
Yeah.
steady the ship. But I like what the Pistons are doing. I like Kate Cunningham. I like Jaden Ivey a lot. So I actually thought the Pistons were gonna be a lot better this year, but we'll see. I know Cunningham dealt with a lot of injuries, so
Yeah.
all right. I just want to get your take on that. We're kind of
Yeah.
running down, so let's switch gears to hockey real fast, just so we get our
Mhm.
picks in. I guess real quick recap. So obviously Florida swept the Canes, which is not. You and I both picked Florida. Did not see a sweep. We each had it going 7.
Mm-hmm.
That was surprising.
Very.
Um, and Vegas, the way they beat Dallas Game 6, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say I thought Dallas was gonna win, but once Dallas forced Game 6, they were getting Jamie Benn back. I thought there was a good chance they'd be able to force Game 7, and from the jump, Dallas Vegas having none of it. I mean, I don't know if you how much you watched it. The first period though, it was brutal. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not even really a
It was
Stars
three
fan.
nothing.
It was, and I'm not really a Stars fan. Like, I'll pull for them. I mean, I don't despise them. It's cool to see the hometown team do well. But they just kept turning the puck. I'm like screaming at the TV, like, guys, how do you keep turning the puck over? Like, what do you all do? They just looked lost the first period.
Yeah.
And it was interesting when it was 0-0. Dallas had the first true scoring opportunity of the game, and they screwed it up. And then, like, just a couple minutes later, Vegas comes down and scores. And I was like, that's not good, because you just saw Jake. Jake was a little rattled, and just downhill from there.
Yeah.
So bye-bye, Dallas. I don't know. You had a chance, but... And here we see
It was a good
Vegas in the
season.
Stanley Cup for the second time in their long and storied 5-year history. So ultimately, I'll ask you, does Vegas... Obviously, everybody has a shot. Seeing what you saw in Game 6, and with the Panthers having a long layoff, I mean, I know we were rolling with the Panthers. Do you want to switch to Vegas? Do you think Vegas is going to do it?
I the way that the Panthers look and how dominant they've been, and not even dominant as far as, like, I mean, just dominant like as far as a blowout, but dominant as far as, like, when it even gets to extra time. I mean, they just seem so calm and so, like, they're nothing is too much for them right
Yeah.
now. They just, and then Kachuk,
Yeah, Matthew Tkachuk is, oh man.
dude, on another level
Yeah.
right now. And I just don't. I mean, yeah, Vegas. I mean, what they did to, again, Dallas, like you just mentioned. Yeah, they. I mean, they looked good. But I think more of Dallas just wasn't ready for that. And I see that as more of a Dallas thing than I did a Vegas thing blowing them out. I think Vegas going against the Panthers is a whole nother ball game. I think this Stanley Cup, it has the Panthers written all over it. And so, yeah, I'll start. I think the Panthers in 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think
Wow.
Kachuk is bringing home the MVP right there, boy.
So,
I just don't see
that's
anything
good.
else.
I was going to ask you. I forgot to ask you. So Kachuk for the MVP for the Conn Smythe. So if the
Yeah.
Heat win, do you have Butler for the MVP for the NBA?
Yes.
Okay, I think
Yes. Whatever.
Jokic gets it if Denver wins. I don't.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, the
I
only
agree with
other
that too.
option I would say maybe Murray, but I think Murray
Yeah.
would
No.
have to just have, like, every game he's putting up like a 30 burger or something
If
for him to
if if
overtake Jokic.
Yeah, if Jokic, I don't foresee Jokic having anything less than a triple double the way he plays.
Yeah.
But I think he can still have a triple double and Miami still win, because if everything falls on Jokic,
Mm-hmm.
then it can be a little much. And so, but yeah, I think if my prediction is right of Miami in 6, I think Butler does. And again, for the Stanley Cup, Kachuk, the way that he's playing, man, I just don't.
Yeah.
And the way that the Panthers are playing, I just don't see.
Yeah.
I just don't see the Knights having a chance. So What
I
about you?
also picked the Panthers. I will agree with
Hmm.
you. I think it's 7 though. I actually do think this goes
Okay.
7-7. And
Okay.
I am actually going to take and maybe it's just because I have a soft spot for goaltenders. I think Sergei Bobrovsky,
A goaltender.
the
Oh,
mighty
okay.
Russian between the pipes for Florida, I think
Hmm.
he will take home the Conn Smythe. And here is why. I think this series will end up, even though both teams are known for their offensive firepower,
Hmm.
I think this will actually end up being a lower scoring
Go ahead.
series than people expect.
Hmm.
So I think you're going to see a lot of 3-2, 2-1. Maybe you might see like a 6-5 or 6-4 game riddled in
Hmm.
here.
Hmm.
But I think because Bobrovsky, one, you got Aiden Hill on the other side for Vegas.
Hmm.
It's his first playoffs. Listen, he has been solid, so it's hard to doubt him going into the Stanley Cup. But again, we're talking about the Stanley Cup finals. We're on the other side. You got Sergey. He's got 2 Vezinas. He hasn't been to the Stanley Cup, but he has a lot of postseason experience. This feels like his moment. And I think he's been putting on a show since they threw him in round 1.
Hmm.
I think he's the rock that pushes Florida over the top. And when Florida's struggling on offense, because I think they will at some points in this series, he's the one who keeps them in the game. So I think
Hmm.
he takes home the Conn Smythe. If it's not him, I would also think it would be Kachuk. I mean, it's hard to argue with what Kachuk's been doing. Um,
Game one is in Vegas, right?
yes, Vegas, because remember Florida, and that's the craziest part. Florida was the last team to make the play. This
Oh
is what I
yeah,
love
yeah,
about the
yeah.
NHL playoffs.
Hmm.
They were the last team to make the playoffs on the last day of the regular season. And not only did they have to win their last few games, they also needed Pittsburgh to lose their last 2.
Hmm.
And Pittsburgh's last 2 games were to Chicago, who has the number 1 overall pick because they had a pitiful season,
Hmm.
and Columbus, who has the number 3 pick because they also had a pitiful season.
Hmm.
And somehow Pittsburgh lost to both of those teams. And that's the only reason Florida even made the playoffs.
Yeah.
So this is, to me, this is probably probably the most impressive run to the Stanley Cup I've ever seen.
Hmm.
I think it's
Hmm.
even more impressive than the Blues run in 2019. Because the
But
Blues, yep,
real quick, what about when? Because you mentioned, because if I'm not mistaken,
yep,
Vegas when they first came 5 years ago, they went right like the first season.
they did, and that's a good point. But the only reason I feel like this is more impressive because Vegas was a dominant season, was a dominant team all that season. Like they locked up a playoff spot like almost like mid-March that season. I think they even won their division that year. I mean,
But again,
Florida,
you said run to the Stanley Cup,
yeah,
and so for
yeah,
being a new organization and you know having
mhm,
a whole bunch of players come from different teams, if I'm not mistaken, that's the way it
yeah,
worked. And
yeah,
then to get on the ice, play a season long
mhm,
NFL NHL season, and
yeah,
then reach the Stanley, even though they didn't win, but they still reached the Stanley Cup. I mean, yeah, Florida, they didn't have a great season,
yeah,
but they're having a great run in the Stanley Cup. I think so. What I will say, I'll put it like this, and this is my opinion, and you can have
yeah.
have your thoughts after this. I think if Florida wins the Stanley Cup, I think is more impressive. But
Okay,
if they don't, I think what Vegas did when they first came into the league is still more impressive.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's fair. Regardless if Florida wins or not, I think to me it's more impressive just because I don't know if you'll like how I kind of trying to wiggle out of this. I will say
Mm-hmm.
Vegas's was more unexpected, but
Okay.
again, by February, you knew what Vegas was. Yes, they happen to be way better than everybody expected, but by mid-season, you knew the team was for real. Stanley Cup for real. Obviously, I didn't think that,
Mm-hmm.
but you knew they were a great team. Florida needed Pittsburgh. I'm going to keep saying this. Florida needed Pittsburgh to lose 2 straight games just to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then they were down 3-1 to the greatest regular season hockey team of all time.
Yeah.
And they've only gotten better. Like, they win that in 7 games, then they win 5, and then they sweep Carolina. So to me, it's whether or not they win, I think this is the most impressive run to the Stanley Cup.
Okay.
I would like to see them win, though.
Yeah, I would too.
I'm not going to be angry if Vegas wins, but
I'm not either. Yeah.
I like this. This is cool to see. So
I'm just going by from what I'm seeing right now, and in terms of from what I see from Florida, it just reminds me of like that. Like that Patriot Tom Brady type season, like they just look unreal on the ice right now. And I just I love Florida, right? The way that they're playing right now. But again, if Vegas wins, hey, more power to them. I think it's redemption from what happened the first season, like I just mentioned. And so, but I like Florida. So,
I like what you said about, I mean, that's spot on. The moment is it's never too big for them. And they always, even down to game 4 where Kachuk scores with, what was it like?
Oh no, it was like 2 or 3 seconds left. Yeah.
Like they just, when it matters most, they have showing up. So it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Kachuk specifically has shown up.
Yeah.
I think that was like his 3rd game winner of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Series
he's just
winner.
Carrying him. He's just on another level. He's going to make me get his jersey probably.
Cool deal. Well, I guess in closing, so again, Stanley Cup Finals, I have Florida in 7.
Yes. I have them
in
5.
I have them 5. NBA Finals, I have Denver in 6.
I have Heat in 6.
You are going, listen, I respect you going with your heart. It almost kind of wants me to see the Heat win. But then also I realize that I really like being right. So I'm like, screw the Heat. Let's go Nuggets.
That's funny.
Cool. Any closing remarks, Mr. Carlos?
No, man. Another great episode. Can't wait to do another one after this. And again, those who continue to support by downloading, those who are following our Instagram at Socratic Sports, on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend. Just give us a listen. And please send us some feedback. You can email us at SocraticSports22@gmail.com with any questions, comments. Just hit us up. Maybe we can talk about your questions that you have through email. So and comment on our Instagram page, and DM us. I'll do something. Communicate with us.
We enjoy all the young kids do these days.
Yeah, that's what. Yes, I'm trying to be hip right now, Joseph, as you can see. And so
you're better at it than I am.
But thank you guys for listening, downloading, and appreciate you guys. Hope you enjoyed this podcast. Let's play it out, Joseph.
All right.
Peace.
All right. See you next time, everybody.